Hey everyone, my name's Andy. I'll be your host today. I've got Casper with us. Again, this is a pretty good amount coming on the channel now. I lost count of how many times it's been. So thanks for coming on, Casper. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I think I lost count after our 10th, discussion
Yep.
here. So whatever number it is, it's always a pleasure. So
All right, so I wanted to bring you on. Maybe you're seeing something I'm not seeing, or maybe you got a little bit different viewpoint and some ratios that I don't really look at. So wanted to bring you on, talk about gold and silver, talk about uranium and whatever else our hearts desire towards the end. So what are you seeing in the markets? What's your kind of overall opinions right now in the gold and silver space? And what are you seeing?
I think it's a good drill to actually go back and look at our latest interview with you. And we talked about something is really brewing here. And basically, we have gone up. I wouldn't, not every single day, but the trend has been up for like 4 6 weeks here in silver and gold, uranium, platinum. Oil is not doing a whole lot, but eventually it will. But yeah, it has been amazing the past 5 weeks, 6 weeks for metals. Right, in general, metals has done really well. So we talked about before going online here that what chart do you want to show? You asked me, and I couldn't really pick. There was so much good stuff to choose from. So I have been trying to do my best, and then maybe you can ask, a not rehearsed question or two, and then we can see where it takes us. So
Okay. Okay. So how about we start with silver? A lot of people love silver. There's been a lot of action there in terms of price movements and stuff like that. So we can start there and then just venture off into the wild after that.
yeah, let's do that. Again, just straight into the charts. That's what we do. Charting, that's so cool. So yeah, silver, should we I think we should take a little bit of legacy stuff just to again at least show where I really started to be, very bullish on silver, which actually happened roughly 18 months ago when we finally broke that 4 year, 3 4 years worth of consolidation, pullback, you can call it whatever. But the 26 for me on the silver chart was the big moment. Was to me, this is now the time to be extremely bullish, and all the pullbacks that we will get most likely will be bought up. And you again, you buy basically every breakout that you get. You also saw gold at that point in time, which we will touch in a little bit, breaking that 2075. It has gone up ever since. And gold at that point also broke out against inflation. So you had a lot of really good stuff happening at that point in time for silver and gold. But also that was also the time where I personally started to really start to buy the good setups that came in gold and silver and has been rewarded massively. So it is really interesting at this moment in time. And yeah, we turned extremely positive over here, roughly 26, and now we sit at basically 44. And often when I do an update on Twitter, I'm so used to put like a three at the beginning. I'm kind of getting used to putting the four, but um, but yeah, we're not far away from that 50. 10% roughly, right? 15%. So yeah, and as I also tweeted when we started to trade north of 40, there's not a whole lot of volume traded here looking back. So there won't, in my view, there won't be many sellers left. So so yeah, silver looks incredible, and you can see here just recently, which I think actually was the last time we spoke, we were somewhere around here, and now we have been breaking that upsloping parallel. And whenever you start to break these to the upside, you really start to actually increase the angle of the increase, and you can just see the past, what is it, 6 weeks? We've just been printing green candles. So for now, it looks pretty darn good. Um, and I want to show you a momentum chart, and I know you also have been showing this on your
YouTube.
YouTube because I do listen to your daily update, the Twitter update. So that is quite cool to see this chart on your channel. And this is a a momentum indicator that I've been playing around with a little bit, mostly off screen. But again, this is basically very interesting because what we measure here is the price and its relation, in this case, to the 200 daily moving average. So the 200 daily would be your horizontal line down here. And then you basically see the price oscillating back and forth. And you can see here basically since March of 2024, we have been outperforming the 200 day moving average. And just recently, we actually were breaking this wedge, which if you were to see this on a 5-year chart on any price, any ticker, any ETF, if it was gold, platinum, whatever, you would know that this is most likely a massive breakout happening. So it is nice to see that even though we have gained so much in terms of price, we have actually just been breaking out. The price has just been breaking out against the 200 daily, which already now is turning up quite massively. So imagine the price outperform that steep increase in the moving average over the next, whatever. I don't know how long time it will be, but we are definitely seeing that impulse now, and the silver price doing really well today, up like 2-3% also. So yeah, interesting to have a breakout so late into the move for silver. It's really interesting times for sure. But make no mistakes, at some point in time we will get a pullback. But I do believe that we have something that I find very interesting, and that is actually a big node up here with two very long trend lines or parallel channels hitting roughly June of 2026, which is $76. So that to me has my interest. So that is only, what, 9 months from now to actually see this one go basically a double. That is interesting, and that has my attention for sure. You can see it here. If we zoom out, you can see why it is so interesting to me. So yeah, silver is firing on all cylinders at this moment in time. But let's see when we hit 50 what happens. It's a big level going back, but let's see.
Do you think that we're going to see any big pullbacks
Hmm.
as we move on up, or do you think it's going to be kind of a straight shot?
I, I, again, always tricky, but I don't think the $50 level has that much importance as people might think. Because once we start to get close to the 50, silver is breaking out against inflation, which is uh, a much bigger deal than hitting 50 on a price chart looking back for such a long time. So I think we will see a pullback, but I don't think we'll see a collapse like many people will say. Um, People are saying we're going to go back to 30. I find that unlikely. Of course, I could be wrong, but I don't see the pullback will be that steep. I think there will be some selling, some profit taking, but I think this could do a Coco where I actually like 3 years ago I sold the all-time high thinking, hey, I'm gonna buy a pullback of 50%. We did get a pullback. I think it was 10-15% very quickly, and I'm like, yes, nice. I'm gonna trade this. And then 2 weeks later, you had the biggest short squeeze ever. At least in modern days, you can see here. This was the Coco, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna sell this. I'm happy, and then boom, and then I was out of the trade. So I had the thesis perfect. I knew this was gonna be a big one, but I sold here, and then I'm like, yes, I'm doing the right thing, and then I couldn't get back in because this was just going straight up. So I think we could see the same here for silver. I think we could. That is a possibility.
I agree. I do think it's possible.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting because a lot of the banks are, the one of the largest amount of shorts are against silver.
Yeah,
So
by
I
far.
don't know what that means when we start getting up there. If we just squeeze the whole dang thing, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know neither. But again, yeah, you're correct. Silver is, I think, at least back like a few years ago, I think silver was how many times more shorted? Like 10 or 15 times more shorter than cocoa, which did that parabolic, short squeeze. So yeah, it's anyone's guess, but higher prices is to me over the next few years a no-brainer. I can't see any reason why it shouldn't go higher. So yeah.
All right, so pretty much possibility of a straight shot. We're breaking the 45-year cup and handle. We've got momentum breaking out of that spot that you showed us. I mean, this thing could really it'd be running on all cylinders. It could be like bigger long-term pattern starts to break, the momentum breaks. We get everyone and their mom doing a short squeeze on it. Do you think 77 could be too low? Do you think we could blow past that like it's nothing?
I I think if we get there, according to the chart, if and I haven't
Mhm.
called it, but it has my interest. If we get there in seven, what is it, 9 months time, I would expect a pullback to some degree. I expect that because that is what the chart is telling me. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a, consolidation pullback for some period of time. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So that is my view at this moment in time. So I can't say again, can we go straight through? Yeah, but for now, that is not my plan or my view on the markets. So
Okay. Do you want to keep with the silver theme or do you want to jump over to gold and talk about gold first, the commodity?
yeah, we could do gold. Let me in one second
Sure.
here. I could go to this one here. So yeah, I've actually cleaned up the chart a little bit here, but we talked about the big level. It feels like yesterday, but it is actually, what is it, 18 months ago, 1.5 year, when we broke that. Um, what the handle that the ceiling of the handle here, which is a part of a bigger cup and handle, and we have basically gone up ever since. Um, and I do believe we're gonna hit 4K, but I could also see the overshoot, which I've been talking about for some time now, because that is basically the cup height adding to the top, so you're getting roughly 4,150. But ultimately, right now, we are just playing a massive, massive uptrend. And I'm not going to sell anything. I see any dip that we get, also in silver and in the miners at some point in time, as buying opportunities. But I'm not going to short anything. I'm not going to sell anything until I see, um, signs of a big top, and then try to get out as good as possible. You will never buy the top or anything, but you try to get as close to it as possible will be very hard. But yeah, I'm gonna do my best, hopefully. So, but it will be tricky. So
And do you believe the gold chart as it's flying higher, do you think this is the leading indicator of a commodity bull market where all the other stuff's going to follow right behind it?
yeah, I mean, gold leads and then the other guys follows, and that is a prime example. So yeah, gold is really striving here and has done for the past 18 months. But what we know is also that gold is also leading inflation, right? So what we saw over here, which was, the leading up to from basically 2019 to 2020, 21, then we had that big inflation period. And that was, again, we had some really high inflation numbers. Again, they're not correct, but they at least how they measure it. And just imagine what this will do, right? In a few years' time, it's gonna catch many people by surprise that why we have inflation again the second time around. But again, to you and me and your audience, they will not see it as a surprise because we are being told right now that inflation will come again in the second wave, and then we will have a third wave, at the end of this decade as well, maybe into the next decade, but we will get a third wave of inflation at some point in time also, just like we saw in the 1970s. But maybe much, much, much more severe in my view. I think there's a lot of uh, bigger issues now compared to then as well. So
All right, so how about we jump into some ratios? You can
yes.
choose your own ratio, whatever you'd like to share.
I think we should stick with gold and silver, but in this time around we will flip it on its head and do silver gold ratio. So, and again, this is also one of my views that we are still insanely early, because I do believe we're gonna get. Maybe we should do the gold silver ratio because people know these numbers more than this one here, so we're gonna do it differently. I'm just going to remove it all here. So, so yeah, we can clearly see we're still roughly at what is it, 85. So historically, very, very high numbers. But to me here again, these numbers down here, which we have been talking about in the past as well, I think we're going to hit 30 and actually overshoot that quite easily. And when we see these numbers come down one way or the other, that is fuel. That is the prime indicator for me for the mining sector and metals in general. It could be platinum miners, it could be platinum, it could be uranium, steel, all sorts of stuff. Because when this ratio is collapsing, that is when you see the mining sector really kicking into gear. And you can see for the past 3, 4 months here, the mining sector has done really well. And surprisingly, well, not to us, of course, but you're seeing the ratio come down very, very hard on the monthly time frame. So this to me here is just one big bear flag in the making. And we can extrapolate that, further down to roughly 42, but then ultimately 30, and beyond. So even though we are really, you know, enjoying the gains that we're seeing here today, I think this is just the beginning of a much broader picture that will happen again during this decade, so 5 years more or so. Um, but yeah, we will have big pullbacks again where the miners is going to pull back and gold is to outperform silver. We know this, but that will just be fuel for the next leg down, really. So yeah, still early, still very, very early.
So you're saying we could get underneath the ratio of potentially 30 to 1,
Uh, Yeah,
and
I would be very surprised by the end of this whole thing here that if we are not below 31, I'll buy you a dinner. That's how confident I am. I mean, we are in. I can't see that not happening. And I would even go far and say, and this maybe sound a bit hyperbole, but at the end of it all, during the peak of it all, we will probably see single digit, for a day or two, at some point in time. So yeah, that
dang,
is
that's
how.
so. I mean, that's a huge move. So
Yeah.
where do you think gold may potentially go? And then I'm just going to back calculate a 10 to 1 ratio.
That's the tricky one, right? 10-to-1 ratio where gold will be. But I have some what I think is conservative targets, and we could go back to the gold chart because that is just basically a very simple measured move.
Mhm.
Again, here, if we do, because what we had here is one big run up, right? And then you have a big cup and handle at the top here. So
Yep.
if we just take the move from here to here and then add that to the top or to the bottom, at least from the momentum point of view, you're getting that 8K level, which is only 100% away. And again, if you want to hit the upper red here, which I totally think is valid, we could see that 12,000. And I've seen some really good technical guys as well pointing to higher prices at the end of it all. But I think 8K is nothing is as sure as it gets, but I think that's very conservative, and I would be extremely surprised if we don't see that during this decade. I would be very, very surprised.
So just doing the math, if it's 8K gold and you go 1 to 10 ratio, that's $800 per ounce silver.
Yeah,
Possible?
again, if they peak at the same time, right? We might have gold
Yep.
overshoot initially and then come back, let's say 8K to 5K, and then silver will peak, and then you have 500. So it depends on when the intersection comes. But yeah, again, as you mentioned, triple digit silver is also as sure as it gets in my view. Again, not tomorrow, I know, but during this decade, again, triple digit will happen in my view. That is, yeah.
So if we're going like that, could you do a silver to CPI ratio chart?
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
if that's breaking out, the miners are just going to go ballistic, right?
exactly. And that's also it's a good thing that you mentioned it because this really shows how early we are. Again, gold silver ratio still very, very early. Um, but it's actually a really good one if I can find it somewhere. Silver, there you are. Cool. And there's actually some really funky ratios here that, again, just looks, oh, we're getting close. Look at this, boys and girls. I haven't been looking at this for quite a while. We actually had a huge breakout in this ratio. a month ago where we broke this. What is that? That is over 10 years, by the way. Getting back above the big breakdown here in the ratio back in 2012, hitting the upper massive resistance there. And then again, we could see a little pullback here, again, hitting it for the third time, but then it's game on, right? So just to get to the top, meaning if the CPI stands still from today, which it won't, it will be very elevated. Silver still has that 300% roughly to the highs, and that is without CPI moving at all until we reach the highs of the 1980s, that is. So yeah, still early.
Yeah, so if we break this though, I mean, a lot of people they're looking at their portfolio, they've got silver companies or whatever. They might be up a whole bunch, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we're saying that if this thing breaks, it's all game on.
Yeah, long term, it's all game on. But I think the most difficult part will be to actually stay in the trade. Because again, as I keep saying all the time, a few times during this ride, you will get hit very, very hard in the face with very steep pullbacks. 30, 40%, I think could easily happen depending on, what's happening with the metals and the markets overall. But yeah, the long-term trend is only just beginning for silver breaking out against inflation. And I want to show you also, I want to show you gold here because it broke out against its inflation hedge, inflation April 2024, like we talked about. So it's actually really good to see what happened there after that point in time. CPI, look at that. That's basically roughly the same chart, but with a lag, right? And this is right here now, actually. 7.7 where silver is today. Uh, yeah, right around here. We might get that little pullback, but overall, when we break that trend line for silver, it is basically game on. And actually, for gold, when we broke that cup and handle at roughly 7.8 in the ratio, it has a very greedy but a measured move at 50, right? So you will have a period of gold massively outperforming 50 over the next, 5, 8 years, whatever, how long time it's going to take. Um, that
It's
is,
5x in this ratio to
yeah,
go
still,
up.
yeah, yeah, still, yeah, 5x roughly, yeah, 4.5. But yeah, starting at 7, getting to roughly 50 in that ratio. Um, so yeah, absolutely massive breakout, and no one is actually talking about it here. No one compared to a few, but the mainstream media is not talking about these kind of charts here. Breaking all-time highs. Typically, you could get some stalling here, for a period, but in the grand scheme of things, it's we again the trend is your friend, and this is a big trend for sure.
Yeah. So, is there any way that we can describe how big of a deal this chart is? Like, because I think what people are going to struggle with is that they're not going to be able to hold on for the entire bull market. They're
Yeah,
gonna get up a couple 100%, sell, and call it good. But we're saying, I mean, basically what you're saying, and I agree with it too, is like this could be a very, 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 very big move. Much like the 1970s, if you could see the big move back there, where I mean it was on like Donkey Kong for a long time.
yeah, it was, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's again that is why we use the ratios because price itself can be tricky to identify. But once you see, for instance, gold, getting maybe too overvalued compared to the SPX, or the gold to the ratio coming down, into low numbers, and other ratios that you can look at, then it might be a time to finally get out. And no, you will not sell the top. No one will. But again, you've done well and you've done your best to ride it as long as you can. And yeah, I still think every pullback that you get, if you get like a 3, 4 months consolidation in the GDX, for instance, we could easily get that. If that's a bull flag or anything, a breakout, you buy into that. I wouldn't short it this time around. It's too dangerous. So
Yeah, such good trends, big long-term trends. What about like like the juniors versus the seniors? Do you do any ratios like
Oh
that?
yeah.
Because that is usually a good indication that you're in
Yeah,
a bull market at least. And then you can see the stage because if the juniors start to outperform the seniors dramatically, then
yeah.
you're towards the end of the bull market if it goes way up against it.
Exactly, exactly. Typically, at the end of it all, you see every crappy silver stock, just be insanely overvalued. They have nothing. The only thing they have is a web page. But we're not there at this moment in time. You can just see here the SILJ divided by silver. Again, we are not even breaking out yet, on the long-term stuff for the SILJ. But you can see we're ramping up here. So again, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that, over the next few years coming in. So until we see, again, we don't have that much data, which is a shame. But again, 0.5 in the ratio, 0.6 maybe, then we might be a little bit, then we might be extended. But for now, still very early, and we haven't even been breaking out or anything. It's the start of it all, basically. Even though silver is at 44 and people are getting afraid. I'm not afraid, but I know that there will be pullbacks that will hit you very, very hard in the face. Um, but they will be buying
What
opportunities.
what gives you that confidence? How come you're not afraid?
It's again, it is conviction, but it is the ratios telling me that silver is not overvalued against basically anything. The miners are still, we have just been rallying. Um, very big, at least for the last half year, but in theory, in 1.5 year. Um, I still think it's early. I'm not hearing anyone that I know of, in my own life talking about silver. I have one guy talking to that knows about silver, but other than that, basically zero. So yeah, that is pretty often a good indicator, right? To have you know the mainstream talk about silver and gold, and we're not there yet by any means.
So one way to gauge how bullish you are on a sector or whatnot, what is your percent allocation to silver or silver junior companies in your portfolio, just to gauge how bullish you are on these setups?
Yeah, I have
Well,
most of my stuff I have in silver, gold, uranium at this moment in time. But at the moment, I'm more skewed towards silver and the gold miners. I can't give you, juniors versus majors. I don't really have that on top of my head, but I have a mix. I have some big players, some mid cap, and then some very small ones that is very wild to be a part of. Again, some of these they go up 40% in the day, and the next day they're down 25. So they are quite insane to be a part of. But that is why you allocate a little bit to those in order to stomach those kind of swings. So yeah, silver and gold miners right now is my biggest position. Uh,
okay. So
so
you
yeah,
have a lot of conviction in it.
yeah, I really do, I really do, and uranium as well. I think that's a good bridge to talk about uranium, right? Should we do that?
Yes, yes. Let's dive
Yeah.
into uranium too. I know it's
Yeah.
charts were looking good there too. So
Oh yes. Oh yes. And I want to start out with it. You were asking me what is my, view of how to navigate the silver and gold. This is my view for the uranium play. One chart basically, and also one chart, as mentioned last time, that kept me somewhat sane during 2024, where uranium actually, I think it took a beating of 50% down in the overall ETF. So it got smoked pretty heavily. But what we're seeing here is the URA, which is the main ETF for uranium. We have others, but this is the big player in that, divided by the U.UN, which is a good mirror of the uranium spot price. Not one to one, but it's a pretty good gauge. And what we're seeing here is actually if you, again, we talked about it last time, but again, for the new people, this is pretty much a textbook Vikov accumulation phase if you measure these two together over 10 years. And and what we're seeing so far is basically dead on. So what I'm expecting here over the next, few months is actually we're going to wind up here. Again, people can look it up. You can just Google it, Vikov accumulation. We're going to wind up here for some time, and then we're going to blast higher. And this will be during a period of the spot price go up because we've actually just seen the U.UN breaking above 26, which is a big level for me, and I think we're going to see higher prices there, meaning URA and the U.UN will go up in parallel for some time. But at some point in time, we will have the URA completely, do a massive blow off top, you can say, in relation to the spot price. And this is what we're seeing. And until this changes for me, until I see anything that doesn't match the VICUF, I'm a happy camper with the uranium, and has been basically for 5 years. Been sitting tight ever since late 2020, where I bought roughly 80% of my portfolio. And yes, we had 3 years where we basically did nothing but going down. Many stocks were down like 50%. But as you can see, Energy Fuels now, they were $3, I think, like a few months ago, and now it is, what is it, like 12, $15 now or so? It's massive. So yeah, massively bullish on uranium, and this is my guide. This is the one that I go to every week, looking at, are we still on track? Yes. Then I'm sleeping tight.
What other things do you look at in the uranium space that may look good, or give us further indications of something
Yeah,
happening?
I have a funky little ratio where I measure the URNM, which is a different ETF, but this is almost pure mining. We don't have this tech, like the SMR, the New Scale,
Mhm.
Centrus Energy, and these guys. That is not miners, but they are more like tech uranium, you can call it. And now we're seeing the URNM outperforming Cameco, which is a pretty good sign, because that means, even though it's still early, but that means that the small juniors and the mining sector is outperforming the big blue chip, which is actually a pretty good sign of the bull market. And you can see we had the breakdown here back in December 2021, and uranium and some other tech uranium has actually done quite well since then. But we had the miners lagging. Most of them were lagging until recently, where we have actually started to see some pretty decent gains in this one here. So even though it's early, I'm still very interested in this here, because we could start to see some yeah, again, interesting breakouts here, downtrends and all that. So still early, but it's nice to see that, you know, the miners are getting more love right now than Cameco. Even though Cameco is doing well, it's not going down. It's actually going up quite big. So that's good. That's a funky little ratio to look at from time to time.
Okay. I'm also looking at your list over there. URA versus S&P 500 looks kind of interesting.
It is That's an understatement, my friend. That is, again, we're breaking on the fourth here. What we're seeing is basically roughly 10 years, 5 years, depending on how you measure, all-time highs. So 10-year all-time highs is what we're seeing, breaking this 5-year range, right? Um, so yeah, many people are bullish on the SPX and the Nasdaq, but you can clearly see, since the COVID lows, we're up 100 to 150%. URA has done way better in that period, even though we had a period of 4 years of going sideways, doing absolutely nothing in the ratio. This is a huge statement from the uranium sector, that even though we got smoked for like 10, 15 years here, it's now changing, and you should much rather be in uranium compared to the overall markets. You should see way better gains over the next, again, 5 years time, 3 years, 5 years time in this ratio.
The that ratio reminds me of, if you flip it upside down, the gold to silver ratio.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
got the big flag pattern. It's just flipped the other direction.
yeah. That's a good point, because again, we could do that for the next video. But if you take the silver to gold ratio and you overlay the GDX, URA, SILJ, and all these guys, that is why I'm so bullish on the miners, because they are basically tracking each other, not one to one, but over a long period of time, you can see that the miners are tracking quite, uh, decently the silver to gold ratio. So when that goes up, or if we looked at the gold to silver ratio, when that comes down, meaning silver outperforms gold, that is when the mining sector just, that is that is fuel in a good way. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Maybe I can just do that while you again, maybe while you're talking, I could try to make that thing here. Because it is actually, it's very interesting. Silver gold ratio. Hopefully I picked the right one here. Then we're gonna do a little bit of adjustments. We're gonna make that like this. I'm gonna log scale them both. And then we're gonna remove it all. So again, here we can see if we squeeze it a little bit here, how much of a correlation that they have, right? We can clearly see the ebbs and flows coming down. I mean, not one to one, I know, but it is definitely there, right? It is. You can see that. So it is really, again, that's why I'm saying I think we're very, very early if we ought to reach that 10 to 1, 30 to 1, whatever it is that we're going to see on the gold silver ratio. So no matter how bullish you are, if you only see it go to 30 to 1, that means we still have a lot of way to go. 10 to 1, obviously, we have more, but this is actually interesting times. Very, very interesting times.
Yeah. It's a pretty good correlation.
Yeah, GDX actually front running a little bit here, you can see, but overall, it's yeah, that is
Yeah. There
interesting.
some people or some equities front run the commodities. So it makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
People
So
get
and
excited.
and and we could do the URA also. I think that's also, you can just see how they line up. You're going to remove the no, and then I have to do it differently here. Then I can't do that. But again, people can do that as an exercise. You will see somewhat the same overlay, correlation.
Okay. Um, Anything else you'd like to share? I'll open it to whatever you'd like if you have anything.
Um, I think we should just end here with the Strut physical because I think we're breaking out today just to show people
Sure.
how and what is going on here. Log scale. I was like, that looks weird. But what we're seeing is actually the U.UN here, which basically roughly one to one with the spot price of uranium. And we'll remove the measured moves quickly here. So what we had back in the start of this year, we had a big breakdown. But ever since, we have actually been constructing a inverse head and shoulders. Meanwhile, we're breaking from a double bull flag here. And we have just today, actually this Friday, but again, in the past few days, we have been breaking the neckline. So again, here, once we start to reach that measured move, which means 40% is the measured move, we are then gaining back into the uptrend of the overall uranium spot price. And then typically, if you have a false breakdown, you go all the way to the other side of whatever structure you have. So again, I could see the U.UN touch up here, which would be, 200% from now in a period where the miners will outperform that. Like we talked about, the spot price is breaking out now, but overall for the next few years, the miners is gonna double that easily. So very interesting breakout happening as we speak for the spot price. Very interesting.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's game on. Even more so
So,
compared to last time.
so pretty much everything that we just spoke about is game on.
Yeah, it's of course I know once we get the first 3 days of whatever pullback, or we get 3 days of being down 10% in the miners, people are gonna call the top. But I'm gonna see that as whatever consolidation we get, whatever pullback, and these are good tickets to actually add to your stack to whatever miner or whatever that you see, because the long-term trend is by far going up. So yeah.
You've got platinum just sitting in front of us. It's just teasing us.
I think it's a good ending screen to have for, for the discussion. Again, platinum, I have no words compared to last time. Long-term macro bull ever since we broke out, a few months ago, like we talked about. Nothing has changed. And the same thing applies. Whatever we get here, whatever kind of funky, if you get a reason to get in, it could be a bull flag. Let's say we get a bull flag here. You buy that break. Um, it's it's one of those moments where you're getting a 20-year breakout of a very clean, crisp. I mean, there's nothing bad with this chart really as of now. It looks incredible. Um, and one thing I'll end is actually platinum and oil is also heavy correlated to each other. So platinum breaking out is most likely the precursor of oil to follow at some point in time, but it is not there yet. But it will be there again. We might see a little dip, first, but overall, it's it's gonna follow. As soon as they start to print the money again, it's gonna be a big move for oil as well. So yeah.
That makes sense. We can edit on platinum. So if people want to follow your work, how do they follow you? What do they look for?
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Yeah, as always on Twitter, that's where, I started it all. And then in the past year or two, I started the Substack, which is USELINKINV. That's where we pick or try to pick, the best technical setups within, like we talked about, platinum, oil, hopefully very soon as well, uranium, gold, silver, and any other soft commodity that we find good. We try to take advantage of and do the best we can because that's all we can do.
That's right. All right. Well, that's all I've got. So thanks for coming on, Casper. Really appreciate it. Thanks for viewing, guys. If you would like to leave a comment or have any opinions that you'd like to share, put it in the comment section. Love to hear them. And we'll see you next time, guys. We'll see you.